you ever get the feeling that some game devs don't respect the intelligence of their players?
Go for the limbs. Cut off the limbs.
Dismember the creatures to stop them.
Shoot for the limbs.
Okay, I get it, alright? I get it. Playing games with moments like these makes it all the more refreshing when you find a game that has tutorial pop-ups that look a little bit more like this. This is a game called Tunic, a Zelda-like adventure game with a little bit of a twist. See, this game has its very own synthetic language lovingly dubbed Tunic by fans. And the game constantly shows you pop-ups and tutorial hints, and there's an in-game instruction booklet that explicitly tells you everything that you could possibly need to know. But it's done almost entirely in a language that you can't understand. Now, if you're a super ultra mega nerd, you can translate this language back to English. There's English words in the game with Tunic translations right beside them, so you can pull out your pen and paper and figure out which symbols mean what. And there's also page 54 of the manual that gives you a major helping hand in translating the language. But the game doesn't actually expect you to do this. It's just an extra secret for more dedicated fans of the game. The game's instruction manual is where every single secret is hidden. The game wants you to use context clues hidden on every page to figure out where to go and what to do next. Everything from basic gameplay mechanics to how to solve the largest puzzles in the game, all of it is inside the instruction manual. The game is kind of telling you what to do and how to do it constantly, but it's not bashing you over the head with it. You have to interpret what you're looking at to get the correct answer. And something I find very compelling is that this style of design allows the player to be wrong sometimes. You can make mistakes, you can misinterpret the clues you're given, and you have to figure out where you went wrong to get back on course to the right answer. A lot of developers nowadays seem to think that this is always a bad thing. If the player can get lost, or if the player can misunderstand, that means it's a flaw in the design. But that doesn't have to always be the case. Sometimes, deciphering what the game is trying to tell you is part of the fun, and Tunic takes that quite literally with a language that you need to directly translate back into English, but it also does it in more subtle ways. Like after you see the clues on page 43 and 44, you start seeing these line puzzles everywhere. Lines drawn on doors, lines drawn on the ground in certain rooms, line patterns spinning on the walls. But there's elements of these puzzles that are never explicitly explained to the player, like these extra lines that cross through the puzzle sometimes. These lines mean you need to repress the direction after the line. So for example, this line on this puzzle would be up, up, right. There's also these dotted puzzles, where you're expected to connect the dots to create lines to solve the puzzle. There's even characters gesturing directions to press on your D-pad to solve puzzles. The game could easily have some obnoxious side character constantly telling you the solution to every puzzle ever made.
Look, chain we can pull up there.
But the game respects your intelligence enough to not have to do that. Now there's a couple of other games I want to talk about in this video, but before I get to them, there's something else I've got to tell you about. This video is sponsored by Filmora. The most important key to a good YouTube video is good editing, and Filmora is the video editing software of the future. They have a bunch of powerful tools that use AI to do crazy stuff, like AI video translations to translate your content from one language to another, or AI speech to text that automatically puts captions into the video for you. And most importantly, they have the Smart Short Clips feature that can take your long form videos and automatically turn them into short form content that you can upload to TikTok or YouTube Shorts. So if you have a podcast or something, this tool is perfect for turning your 2-hour conversations into catchy 1-minute clips that can hit the algorithm. Filmora speeds up tons of the tedium in video editing, whilst still giving you the final artist's touch to make sure it looks exactly how you want it to. So your editing can look perfect every single time. No questions asked. So download Filmora today with the link in the description or the pinned comment. Thank you to Filmora for sponsoring this video. Tunic uses the art of not telling you anything to create puzzles. Puzzles that hide right under your nose until you're given the clue that allows you to solve them. But some games withhold information not to create a puzzle, but to tell a better story. Rainworld has a very, very basic tutorial. You're told that you need to find food, you're told that you need to find shelter from the rain, and you're told that you can leap across gaps. And that's it. After that, you're left completely to your own devices. You have no idea what to do or where to go. You don't even really know what the game's about. You just try and survive because that's all the game has told you to do. But as Rainworld fans will be eager to tell you, Rainworld is an incredibly complex game. It's got an incredibly diverse creature ecosystem. It's got movement tech. It's got a story about an ancient civilization and omniscient supercomputers. Rainworld even has basic controls that it doesn't tell you about, like how your slug cat always throws objects from this hand first, and you can tap the pickup button to swap which item is in which hand, or you can hold the pickup button to swallow items to store them for later. The game tells you none of this. The game expects you to figure it out for yourself. You're expected to watch how certain creatures behave to be able to figure out how to avoid or kill them. You're expected to mess around with the controls to figure out certain little tricks that might let you move faster or carry more items. You're expected to explore the map to find key locations that link to the story, and then piece that story together with all of these moments as you carry on through the game. Now, there's multiple reasons that Rainworld does this. Figuring things out for yourself is inherently satisfying, at least in my opinion. But Rainworld has another reason for doing this, a reason that is arguably far more important, and it's all about immersion. In Rainworld, the very first character you play as is the survivor. You're a young slug cat that has been separated from your family by the rain. You are not equipped to survive on your own. You are young and weak and don't have the knowledge required to survive the harsh environments. And the game simulates this feeling in the player by not telling you a goddamn thing about how the game works. If the game was constantly popping up tutorials on screen like, this is a karma gate, lizards are scared of vultures, daddy longlegs are blind, not only would it take away the feeling of discovery from the player, but also the main character themselves in the story. It's immersion. That is what the lack of tutorialization in Rainworld achieves. And then when you finally beat the game and you move on to other slug cats who are older and stronger and wiser than the survivor, the player is then also older and stronger and wiser because they've already beat the game and acquired all of the knowledge that comes along with that. And Rainworld really does simulate the fantasy of being a small creature in a dangerous environment incredibly well. Every time you see a new creature for the first time, it's a horrifying experience. You don't know whether it's friendly or whether it wants to eat you, and you'll spend time hiding in places it can't reach you, trying to figure out what it is and what it's doing. Rainworld really makes you feel like a slug cat, you know what I'm saying? Now, Rainworld is a pretty extreme example of not telling you stuff, but you don't need to push it that far to give players moments that they will literally never ever forget. Outer Wilds tells you the broad stuff. It tells you the controls, and it gives you some cool diegetic tutorials about how to fly your spaceship and your jetpack and the signal scope and stuff like that. But what it doesn't tell you is basically everything else. Where to go, what to do, what the game's about, what the goal is, none of that is explained to the player. Hornfels does ask you what you want to do first when you get into space, and the game gives you some neat ideas of where you might want to go first. But these are just suggestions. You can go wherever you want, whenever you want, and the end goal of the game is elusive for most of your playtime. You just have lots of smaller goals all in a row about how you need to explore this one place you just learned about, or go to this other place that you just figured out how to reach. And in a game with no other core gameplay loop to speak of, this is an incredibly brave way to design your game. There's no combat or levels or base building or any traditional video gamey stuff. All of the stuff that tells the player that they are progressing is all absent from Outer Wilds. It's just a solar system with a bunch of reasons to look around. And the only thing the game does to keep you invested is keep you curious. It doesn't directly tell you what to do. It just sprinkles a bunch of hints of what might be interesting to you personally. And the thing that piques your interest the most is the thing that you'll go and explore. If Outer Wilds was a linear game, the story just wouldn't be as powerful. The game not telling you where to go first or what to do next is incredibly important to the experience. Because most games that want the player's experience to feel unique will usually do that with multiple endings. But most of those endings will be super similar to each other. Or there will be like a crappy ending and then the good ending if you 100% the game. But despite Outer Wilds only having one ending, every single individual playthrough of the game feels entirely unique to the person that played it. Because we might have all reached the same conclusion, but how we got to that conclusion was completely different. It makes it feel like my journey was a meaningful part of the story, even if the ending was the same no matter which route I took. And it makes all of the characters and the music and the visuals all feel like they're unique to me, despite the fact that this game has been played thousands, if not millions of times. If the game gave you constant quest markers of where you should go next, the game wouldn't be nearly as memorable as it is. And another benefit of not telling the player anything is a feeling that all three of these games are able to give you, which is the feeling of, wait, I could have just done that the whole time? The feeling of revelation that this style of game can give you is more satisfying than anything else I've ever experienced in any other piece of media. And I think Outer Wilds is by far the best at doing this. Every time you learn about something new, like how a quantum object works, or how a jellyfish works, or how the simulation in Echoes of the Eye works, you're constantly shown options that you had that were sitting right under your nose the whole time, and you just lacked the knowledge to actually do it. Outer Wilds has more moments like this than I can even count, but Rainworld and Tunic are also very good at this. In Rainworld, the coolest one to me was finding out that Daddy Longlegs are blind. It made me feel like such a genius. As long as you're quiet, they have no idea where you are. And in Tunic, the Holy Cross puzzles are literally everywhere, but you only notice them after the game has made them apparent. And the Mountain Door puzzle adds an extra layer to that. Realizing that there's a hint on dozens of the pages across the entire instruction book, and that these hints were there the entire time, and not only did you not know they were there, but you didn't even know they would be important, is such an awesome revelation. And flipping through the booklet looking for them makes it feel like you're solving the Da Vinci Code or something. And all of these moments make a player think, wow, I am so smart. But what they should really be thinking to themselves is, wow, these developers actually created this. These developers are incredibly smart. Because for every moment like this in a game that feels super organic and natural, there's a designer behind it who meticulously planned the entire thing. They placed the clues in the game, and they came up with how they would connect to each other. And they came up with the entire concept of the discovery in the first place. And it's a very delicate balance they have to make. If they make the clues too obvious, then the player doesn't feel smart for figuring them out. But if they make them too difficult, then most players are stuck, and it makes the puzzle feel arbitrary or overly complicated. It's the developer that made all of these moments feel so powerful, and they're so good at it that all of the genius in their design makes me feel smart. It's actually crazy when you think about it. Now, the obvious downside to this style of design is that it creates games that really aren't for everyone. Some people just don't find this interesting, so you will likely never see a AAA developer go down this route, even if they're making a puzzle game, because AAA games have AAA budgets, which means they need AAA profits to stop their company going bankrupt. And making a game like this is risky. It's a very difficult style of game to get right, and even if you do get it right, some people will just hate the style of gameplay no matter what. So it's left to passion project indie developers to make games like these. So if this is a style of game that you love as much as I do, remember to support your indie developers wherever you can, because that is how we get more games like these ones. And I really do hope we get more games like these ones, because they seem to be pretty rare, which is a shame, because I definitely prefer games not telling me anything compared to whatever this is. Thanks for watching.